Hello everybody and a very warm welcome back to The Working Trader. Today we're going to take a look at support and resistance. But as I mentioned at the end of our last series, which is the Back to Basics series, as well as these kind of slide presentations where hopefully you'll learn something, we're also going to take a look at some live charts so you can see the topics we're talking about in each video in action. And then if there are any trades that we like the look of, we'll potentially be showing you live putting them on, or you can follow our Twitter, which is at TraderWorking, where we often post our trades. Of course, not financial advice or trading recommendations. We don't do that on this channel. But let's get into it. So what are support and resistance? Simply put, resistance is a place or a price where there are a lot of sellers, and support is a place or a price where there are a lot of buyers. And when you look at it on a chart, it does look just like support and resistance. It looks like on the bottom you've got this support level where the price keeps bouncing up off of, and at the top you've got this resistance level where the price can't seem to break through. So as I said, support, lots of buyers, resistance, lots of sellers, and it's a general area of significance. So what will also often happen is that once support or resistance are broken, it becomes the other. So if an area of support that was kind of holding a price gets broken and the price goes below it, what will also often happen is that the price will come back and touch it, but from the bottom, so it will act as a resistance, and vice versa when resistance becomes support. Another important thing to note is that they do often become irrelevant. Support and resistance levels, they don't last forever, and there might be a great pattern that you think you can see of it sort of going up and down, staying between a channel, and then it can just get broken and it might come back and test it. Support might become resistance or vice versa, or it might just never come back to that price level again. So you need to be careful as much as these levels are interesting, sort of an interesting visual look at where people seem to think value or overvalue is in a market. You shouldn't use it as the main thing to trade off of. But let's look at some charts, some interesting charts that highlight support and resistance. So I think the first one to look at, which is quite interesting, is a forex pair. It's euro pound, and as you can see, since about 2016, 2017 till now, it's pretty much stayed in the range of about 0.3, 0.83, sorry, which is acting as a support, and 0.93, which is acting as a resistance. And the price hasn't really broken and held through those levels in the last few years. Now, if we go back, as I said, these support and resistance levels don't last forever. We can see that those two price levels haven't always been that significant. I guess you could say back in sort of 2009 to 2010, the 0.83 seems sort of a little bit significant. That there's sort of seem to be a lot of buyers there, but actually it's in the recent years when it became significant. So I think that highlights that these levels don't last forever, and there's nothing to say that moving forward it's going to stay in there. It could break out, but it could also stay in there. You never know with the markets. Let's look at CVS Corporation because this is interesting because this isn't a horizontal support and resistance. There's kind of a channel. So the general trend since the summer of 2015 is a downwards one. But as you can see within that trend, there are sort of levels where people think there are buying opportunities or selling opportunities. And I think what's interesting about this one to note as well is if we zoom in and go back to most of 2017, there's this kind of mini support and resistance range that is horizontal. So for that year, it's staying in that kind of range, but then as we see moving forward, it breaks down below it. And I guess those levels do seem kind of important because although it broke below it, it came back up and tested that one again. And then over here in October 2018, that level was looked fairly significant. So these lines, these kind of psychological lines where people think there is some relevance, they can be important. And then down here we've got another kind of support, more recent one at 50, around the 52 level, 51.7-ish. Um, but yeah, I guess this one also highlights that once resistance has been broken, it can become support again. It's not an exact science. It did break through it. It didn't kiss it, so to speak. But then again, here it kind of kisses it, and then when I say kiss it, I just mean it just about touches it, as opposed to a sort of a messy line, as this one and this one are. But actually, it does kind of look like it might be coming a support. But who knows, because it's turned around here towards the upside. So as I said, these trends they don't last forever, but it's just an interesting visualization of where other people think there's value in the markets. I think a final one to look at, and I won't spend too much time on this because I want to look at moving averages more in a specific video about them. But you'll sometimes hear on the news, if you ever watch CNBC, they'll be talking about whatever stock or whatever it is that they're talking about at that time, and they'll say um, the moving average is acting as the support. So in that case, instead of there being a straight line, horizontal line, or a trend line, it's actually the moving average that is acting as the support or resistance. And we can kind of see this here with Kinross Gold Corporation. Although it's in a general upwards trend, it does seem to keep coming back towards the moving average, which again doesn't mean it will do that forever. It could change and go really far away from the moving average for a while. You just don't know where the market is. But again, it's an interesting thing to see. I think particularly interesting because a lot of the markets is thinking about what other people are seeing as well. So if there seems to be a trend where people think the moving average is acting as a support, if that it can almost become a little bit of a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, because if everyone then when it does come down to near these levels starts buying it, then it almost becomes that support. Now again, it's not guaranteed and it doesn't necessarily have to last forever. These trends can be broken, but just an interesting thing to note. As I mentioned, follow us on Twitter at Trader Working, and you can see some of the trades we're going to put on. I mentioned one that I quite like the look of with regards to support and resistance, and that's Snap-on Corporation. So this is a short time frame. Let me make it longer. So we're on the daily time frame, and as you can see over the years, this 155 kind of level has seemed to be important. Let me move the price line. So yeah, this 155, 156 kind of area seems to be important, and you can see here, and even back here, it's acted as a bit of a support. And then when the markets crashed in March, April time, they rallied it back up again, and it touched this what was support, but then became resistance, and it kept trying to touch it, and it kept trying to go through it, and it wouldn't go through. But recently, in the last few days, it has gone through, and it's actually held above it for a few days. So I think if it can stay above that for another few days or another week or so, that could be a good buying opportunity. Again, of course, not financial advice, not trading advice, but I think it's something I'm going to be looking at. I'm not going to put the trade on now because I do want to see if it can hold above that level for a few more days. But if it does, I'll be sure to post it on Twitter if we make the trade. So if you found this interesting or you feel like you learned something, give us a like, subscribe, comment. We want to hear what you think as well. And as I said, at Trader Working on Twitter if you want to follow us there. Take care. Bye.